Now here's a good breeding of some bloods I'm doing. This female, which looks wacky, is just the blood, but she's got Hog Island bloods. What's up, snake fans? Dave Palumbo here for Muscle Serpents Daily. Today we're going into the snake room. We'll do a little monitor feeding here on this beautiful Sunday. This video will probably hit on Monday. It's windy out here, so I don't know if you hear the wind in the background. That's what's going on. We had a little, I don't know if we had a tropical storm. It was raining all night. It's been very windy here, which is kind of unusual because usually in December it gets really dry here. We don't get any rain, but Florida's got the most schizophrenic weather I've ever seen. Anyway, we're going to be taking a look at the blood gene in Boas. It's one of my favorites. It's originally from Panama, most of the blood lines. It's a recessive trait. You need 2 copies of the blood gene to express it. It's actually a dark morph, so it darkens up the blacks and it makes the rest of the pattern very red, which is where you get the blood name from. If you add like genes that take away black, like hypo and albino stuff, it really makes the reds pop a lot more, and that's usually the goal in most people's programs. Sometimes it's to put more dark in there because it adds more contrast. So we're gonna take a look at a couple of the blood combos I have, and you can tell me which one you like best. Stay tuned. All right, it's time to feed the monitors. Doing a little weekend feeding here, so I can give you guys some video on it, because I know when Pablo does it, he doesn't take video. So we have our one little girl here. She's always ready to eat. And I got some little quail on a, there we go. Let's give this little boy 2. They like to, oop, good. Because usually they like to go after the same prey item and fight over it like tug of war. He's eating his back there. She's gonna eat hers. These are little baby quails. They could eat more than that now. They're big enough, but I like to give them some poultry, not all meat. They can eat mice too. They seem to do really well. They really like the quail. All right, let's see if we give our albino monitors if they're hungry. Oh, he's hungry, I guess. He very rarely turns down food. And they're not used to being fed on the weekend, because usually I don't feed them on the weekend. They just kind of got big enough to eat chicks now. Chicks are a lot cheaper than quail, so I'd rather give them the baby chicks, but you know, they have to get to that stage where they can actually eat them. And they're right there. They're just there, they're getting it down, no problem. He's got to just figure out he's got to get it from the, there you go, you got to get it from the front. Yep. Ah, there it goes. That was much better. Head first. Goes down much easier. Good boy, Kofu. You happy now? Yeah, you're in a much better mood. There he is. Good boy. Good boy. Yes, good boy. Look at that tongue. And now you're all happy, huh? Because you want more. All right, we got to give your sister some now. All right, see if she wants any. Pablo will feed you more tomorrow. Now the female's always been a little bit more picky about eating off tongues. Pablo claims that he's been really working with her a lot, and that she's now into like eating off the tongues, that he can get her to eat off the tongues. So let's see how well she's doing here. Come on, big girl. Come on. Oh, she's all pinned against that back wall there. Where she thinks she's going. She's like hiding back there. Come on. If I leave it here, she'll definitely eat it. But I want to really see if I can get her to eat off the tongues. Come on, big girl. Food, food, food. You don't ever get food on the weekends. Food, food, food. I'm gonna have to leave it right here. Will we catch her eating it? Probably not. I missed her. She ate it. I walked away for a minute, soon as I walked away, she went and gobbled it down. But she likes to eat. She just doesn't like to eat in front of other people. That's the way it goes sometimes. Good girl. All right, gonna take a look at some blood boas today and different combinations with them. See which ones I like the best, or you guys like the best, actually. Doesn't matter what I like. What you guys like. This is a snake I produced back in 21. It's about 2.5 years old. This is a hypo blood. Hypo and blood work really well together because the hypo takes away a lot of the blacks in the blood. This is also an onyx, which is another very red snake. Onyx being very similar to leopard. And the question is it also Honduran T positive? I don't think so, but it's a really beautiful blood onyx with the hypo gene in there. This little boy 8, he's probably almost ready to breed. These super dwarf boas, those really small ones that don't get big, they sometimes need an extra year. Like normally, like a Colombian boa 2 years old is ready to breed. These onyxes, I always err on the side of 3 years, sometimes longer, because they just take a long time to get up to size. They're not good eaters when they're young, and sometimes they're not the good eaters. They eat what they want. They're just not big eaters, the dwarf boas and the super dwarfs. Beautiful, beautiful little red snake. All right, now this is a blood with the T positive gene in it, the Gilbert T positive that is. So you can see it's much lighter. It doesn't have hypo in it. If it had hypo, it would be really, really red. But the T positive, Gilbert T positive will, any T positive really, will lighten up a blood and give it more of a light reddish look to it. This is also possible to have leopard, so that could also be contributing a little bit. But this little boy, I produced him back in 22 last year, and he's probably the best one from that clutch. And if you look at his belly, he's got a lot of reds in him, so he's going to take a few years to grow up, and then we'll hopefully be able to breed him. Now here's a motley blood. It's het albino, and the het albino is not really going to do anything in terms of color, but you can see now if you take the blood, which I told you has a lot of darkness in it already, and you don't put hypo gene in it, but you add a darker gene like motley, which makes things dark, you get a almost golden red, brownish blood. And with that, look at that black head. Very striking. I really like the way motley and blood work together. Really nice. Look at that. Stripe. I mean, it really darkens this thing up. But you still see the reds from the blood. The blood gene definitely shows itself, and it's hard to see it because it's in this cocoa blotch, which are almost the same color. Hey, you can see it. Look at that. Look at how that darkness sets off that blood gene. Really beautiful. Okay, now this is a blood with the leopard, with the visual leopard. So 2 copies of leopard, 2 copies of blood. We have a double recessive right here. And you can see, if we had had hypo in here, it would be a lot lighter, but the blood and the leopard together, which are very red, bring that redness out even more. Leopard takes away some of the pattern, you know, and makes its own unique pattern. But you see a lot more red than you would if you just saw a blood or if you just saw a leopard. So they definitely complement each other. And this boy's het albino, or this girl I should say is possible het albino, which doesn't change anything in terms of its coloring, how it looks, but a lot of potentially. And obviously the goal would probably be at some point to try to get either albino or the hypo gene or some kind of T positive into this, since this girl is potentially het albino. And we have a male that's, we know is het albino because we proved him out last year. Probably next season, we will breed this girl who's a 21 to, assuming she's big enough, I think she's gonna make it because she's got some pretty good size in her right now. We'll breed her to the leopard blood that we have that's het albino, and hopefully she'll prove out, and we'll get some leopard blood albinos, which I don't think anyone's produced yet. They have, I haven't seen them. I'm sure Slav is probably watching this video. Slav will send me the picture if there is one. I don't think anyone has hit it yet. Now here's a good breeding of some bloods I'm doing. This female, which looks wacky, is just the blood, but she's got Hog Island blood. So I think it's 50% of her bloodline is Hog Island. So she's got a lot of lightness to her. So you would swear that there's another gene in here, not just blood. Now the male is my leopard blood head albino that I told you about earlier. We're breeding him to her, but she's the one that looks really a lot different. And that's because we have like a line bred trait, which is the Hog Island blood in there. So, and she's real small because Hog Island bloods are gonna be super dwarfy looking. Hog Island's smaller than bloods. Bloods themselves are really small, so you're not gonna have a very big female. So hopefully we'll get her to breed. She's actually almost 5 years old, so we definitely waited long enough. She's certainly old enough, and hopefully we see some breeding action this year from her, because she is one of the nicest bloods I've ever seen. And I showed you leopard blood. This is leopard blood with the hypo gene added. You can see you get a lot more reds in it. It's a lot more less dispersed pattern too, because hypo wipes out pattern. But you can see, look at that belly. Look how red it is. That's a beautiful, beautiful little girl. She was a tough eater when I first got her. She's pretty good now, but she should be up to breeding size. She's a 20. So, maybe another year or so. Sometimes these girls take a long time, especially when they're dwarfish and they're small. I don't know. I don't think she's going to go next year, but we'll see. You never know. She might really start, knocking down the food. If she does, then great. But here's another version. This is what hypo, leopard, and blood do together. And we'll finish off with this little pairing we're doing this year for the first time. I produced both of these girls back in May of 20, so they're 3.5 years old. They're going, almost 4. And the female is a hypo blood that's also para het. So I'm trying to produce some paradigm blood stuff and some fire opal stuff, which would be the albino blood. This male doesn't have the hypo gene, but he's also blood para het. So they're also het anery too as well. With my luck, I'll hit all anery too stuff, but only I'd say 25%. So I don't think we're going to be that bad. So I hope they go. This, once again, we want to get the hypo gene into that paradigm blood program. I haven't done that yet, so that's what we're hoping for here, to get some Paraglow blood stuff, even some, like I said, fire opal blood stuff, which would be fire opal would be albino hypo blood. So we have a good chance. She's a little small, but once again, she definitely has the age on her. It'll just be a matter of whether she's ready to go or not, and that's up to her. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today here at Palumbo's Pythons and Boas. I hope you had a great weekend. Hopefully you're enjoying your Saturday and Sunday, and hope you enjoyed all the different blood gene combos that I showed you today. I didn't show you them all, but I showed you a bunch that I really like, and I wanted to show you the difference between taking away melanin with like a hypo gene or a T positive, Gilbert T positive gene, as opposed to putting more darkness into it via a Motley gene. And I've even seen some really nice IMG bloods out there that are really kind of interesting as well, because the IMG really seems to make that the snake get darker and darker, especially in the dark patterned areas. So there's a lot to be done with the blood gene. I think we're just starting to really tap the potential of that gene, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. So definitely looking forward to a leopard blood albino, a leopard blood VPIT positive is definitely in the cards in the future as well. So looks good for the blood gene and the future of boa breeding. If you like what you're seeing and you want to get involved in the project, feel free to reach out and put any suggestions in the comments for future videos. For now, you guys know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, hit that like button. I'll see you back tomorrow morning.